If you're new to fitness and want to learn how to squat, this is the tutorial for you. I'm going to cover the air squat, the high bar back squat, and the low bar back squat, and also some modifications that you can also do if you can't get that range of motion. First, the air squat. You're going to start with your feet underneath your shoulders and you're going to have your toes turned out slightly. This is going to give you a little more space to push your knees out so your knees can track over your toes. The reason you do that is it's going to allow you to sit the butt straight down. As you descend into that squat, you're pushing your knees out, hips go straight down, and my arms will come out in front of me to give myself a little bit of balance. Ideally, we want to get hip crease below the top of the thigh or knee, as that's going to promote flexibility and full joint support. As you ascend out of the squat, you're pressing through your midfoot. The more balanced you are on the midfoot, the more stable you're going to be. As you extend, you want to make sure you fully open that hip. Again, that's going to hit that full range of motion. At the end of the video, I'll have modifications for you if you can't sit all the way down to that full range of motion. Next, we're going to be going over the back squat, specifically the high bar. As you get into that squat position, you're going to have your hands nice and close to the torso. You want to think of that bar being set up on your traps, so you have a nice high bar position. The closer your hands to the shoulder, the tighter you are going to be in your core, specifically your shoulders and your abdominals. As you get set up, you'll step underneath the bar, you'll stand up from the rack, you'll step one step away from the rack, feet underneath the shoulders, toes turned out slightly. Since the bar is more stacked on top of you, you want to think of having a more vertical torso. You will still have an angle of the torso, shoulders, and hips, but you'll be more upright versus more at a hinge. I'll take a big breath, brace my midline, and then again, I push my knees out, hips go straight down, getting the hip crease below the top of the thigh, hitting the depth, and then I stand up. Really focus on pulling those elbows into your ribcage, staying tight, and also keeping them underneath the bar versus pushing them back. This is gonna target more of the quads. The high bar back squat, usually favored by shorter athletes because their levers, i.e. their legs, are a little bit shorter. The low bar typically favors individuals with longer levers, such as legs. And so when you see people back squatting or at a powerlifting meet, you'll see a variation of different squats. So that leads me to the third squat, the low bar back squat. For the low bar squat, you're gonna have the bar lower on your back, almost around your shoulder blade area. You're gonna have a wider position with your hands as you have to accommodate your arms being a little bit lower. If you have shoulder mobility, you might have to go, if you have poor shoulder mobility, you might have to go a little bit wider. In the squat position, you might also have a wider squat stance. You might have your feet slightly outside your shoulders, toes turned out slightly. As you go to perform the squat, you're gonna have to counterbalance that load. You'll have a little more of a collapsed chest coming forward. As you go into that squat, you're still looking to get that hip crease below the top of the thigh and or knee, but as you come up, you'll notice that the torso will be a little more far forward and it will be more of an upright position as you stand out of that squat. The low bar back squat is gonna target more of the glutes and the hips, so as to strengthen those muscles a little bit more. Again, like I said, different levers on different individuals will favor different type of squat. Training both can be very beneficial for you for strengthening your quads, hips, and glutes. These are some modifications for the squat if you have a hard time hitting that end range of motion. One, you could sit to a bench or box. This is going to bring up that end range of motion, and ideally we want hip crease below the top of the thigh to promote joint flexibility and full muscle activation. But if you can't get there, this will help build the movement pattern. So as you get more comfortable and strong in the position, you can slowly lower that bench or box to get that full range of motion. Number two, you can do heel elevated squats or slant board squats. This will elevate the heel slightly. This will give you a better position, especially if you have tight ankles and calves. Sometimes it can be hard to get that range of motion, or you feel like your knees collapse because of tight or poor calf and ankle mobility. So elevating the heel will give you better position. Eventually, you can decrease the angle of that slant board to eventually get your foot completely flat on the ground. If you really struggle with an air squat, focus on the mechanics and focus on improving that squat position first before adding a barbell in. Eventually, as you get more better with the mechanics, you could add a dumbbell or kettlebell, but that's another video that we'll save for later. Then eventually you can get to the barbell. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope you found this very helpful. Any support by watching a view or sharing is very important to me. I'm so grateful for your support, and I hope to build this online community to be able to provide more tutorials, more mobility, and more coaching for you all.